Christianity makes an extraordinary claim about Jesus Christ. He didn't begin existing when Mary gave birth in Bethlehem. He was there at the beginning, actively involved in creating the universe itself. This idea seems to contradict basic logic. If Jesus was born around 4 BC, how could he exist billions of years earlier? How could a baby born in a stable have spoken galaxies into existence? How could someone with a specific birth date be eternal? Yet multiple New Testament passages explicitly state this. Through him all things were made, John 1:3. In him all things were created, Colossians 1:16. In these last days he has spoken to us by his Son, through whom also he made the universe, Hebrews 1:2. Genesis itself contains clues. When God says, "Let us make mankind in our image," Genesis 1:26, who is the us? When the Lord appeared to Abraham, Genesis 18:1, was this a pre-incarnate appearance of Christ? This exploration examines what Scripture reveals about Jesus' role in creation, why Christians believe he existed before Bethlehem, how Old Testament passages hint at his pre-incarnate presence, and what it means that the carpenter from Nazareth is the eternal Word through whom all things were made. Before examining Genesis, we must understand what the New Testament directly states about Jesus and creation. John 1:1-3, 14. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. This passage identifies Jesus, the Word, as both God and the agent of creation. He existed in the beginning, a deliberate echo of Genesis 1:1. Everything that exists came into being through him. Colossians 1:15-17. The Son is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation, for in him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible. All things have been created through him and for him. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together. Paul doesn't just claim Jesus helped create. He states Jesus is the reason creation exists and the power holding it together. Remove Jesus and the universe collapses. Hebrews 1:2-3. In these last days he has spoken to us by his Son, whom he appointed heir of all things, and through whom also he made the universe. The Son is the radiance of God's glory and the exact representation of his being, sustaining all things by his powerful word. Again, creation is specifically attributed to the Son, Jesus, as the means through which God made everything. These aren't vague hints, they're direct theological statements about Jesus' role in creation. But how does this connect to Genesis? Genesis 1:26 records God saying, "Let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness." This peculiar plural has sparked theological debate for millennia. Traditional Jewish commentary offers several explanations: God consulting angels, God speaking to the earth, or majestic plural, like a royal we. However, humans are made in God's image specifically, not angels or earth's image, which weakens these theories. From the early church, Christians saw this as evidence of the Trinity, Father, Son, and Spirit in conversation at creation. The us is God the Father speaking to God the Son and God the Spirit. Immediately before, Genesis mentions the Spirit of God hovering over the waters, so the Spirit is explicitly present. If Father and Spirit are there, where is the Son? The Christian answer, right there in the us of verse 26. When God creates man, he doesn't say, "I will make," singular, but "let us make," plural. When describing the result, it shifts to singular, so God created mankind in his own image, Genesis 1:27. The action is plural, us, the nature is unified, his, consistent with Trinitarian theology. John 1:1 deliberately echoes Genesis, "In the beginning was the Word." John wants readers to see Jesus present at the Genesis beginning, participating in the creative acts described there. The Old Testament repeatedly mentions the angel of the Lord appearing to people, but this figure acts and speaks as God himself. Many theologians believe these were pre-incarnate appearances of Christ. Genesis 18, 3 men appear to Abraham. He addresses them as Lord, singular, even though there are 3. One speaks as God, promising Sarah a son. Later, 2 go to Sodom while one remains, called the Lord. This scene has been interpreted as an appearance of the Trinity, with Jesus being one of the 3. Genesis 32:24-30. Jacob wrestles with a man all night, who then blesses him and says, "You have struggled with God." Jacob names the place Peniel, saying, "I saw God face to face." Yet Exodus 33:20 says no one can see God and live. Solution: Jacob saw a pre-incarnate manifestation of God the Son. The burning bush, Exodus 3:2-6. The angel of the Lord appeared to him in flames of fire from within a bush. But then God called to him from within the bush and identified himself as the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The angel of the Lord is simultaneously distinguished from God and identified as God, consistent with Jesus' nature. Joshua 5:13-15. Before Jericho, Joshua meets the commander of the army of the Lord, who accepts worship and says, "Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy." Exactly what God told Moses at the burning bush. This commander is clearly divine. See the pattern: the angel of the Lord appears physically, speaks as God, accepts worship, yet is somehow distinct from the Father. Early Christians concluded these were pre-incarnate appearances of the Son, God's visible manifestation before the Incarnation. John calling Jesus the Word, Greek logos, wasn't random. It connected to Jewish concepts of how God creates and reveals himself. Creation by speaking. Genesis repeatedly says, "And God said, 'Let there be.'" Creation happens through God's spoken word. Psalm 33 verse 6 declares, "By the word of the Lord the heavens were made." The universe exists because God spoke it into being. Proverbs 8 personifies wisdom as being with God at creation. "I was there when he set the heavens in place. I was constantly at his side. I was filled with delight day after day, rejoicing always in his presence." Proverbs 8:27-30. Early Christians saw this as a foreshadowing of Christ, God's wisdom personified. Jewish memra concept. In Aramaic translations of the Hebrew Bible, Targums, references to God are often replaced with the word of the Lord, memra. For example, instead of God said, it reads, the word of the Lord said. This avoided overly anthropomorphizing God while acknowledging his active presence. By calling Jesus the Word, John identifies him as God's self-expression, the means by which God creates and reveals himself. Jesus is literally how God speaks to creation, both at the beginning and in the Incarnation. Philippians 2:5-11 provides crucial insight into Jesus' transition from pre-existence to incarnation. Who, being in very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. Rather, he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness. The timeline implied Jesus existed in very nature, God, eternally, before birth. He made himself nothing, voluntarily set aside divine privileges. He took on human likeness, the incarnation in Bethlehem. He humbled himself to death. The crucifixion, God exalted him, the resurrection and ascension. This means Jesus didn't become God at some point. He was always God, but added humanity. The baby in the manger was the eternal creator living under the limitations of human flesh. This is called the hypostatic union, fully God and fully man simultaneously. If Jesus was in very nature God before becoming human, he was present and active in all divine activities, including creating the universe. His birth wasn't his beginning, but his entrance into his own creation. Understanding Jesus' role in creation isn't just academic theology, it has profound implications. Jesus created what he came to save. The incarnation means the Creator entered his creation. John 3:16 says God loved the world, the cosmos, so much he sent his Son. But the Son is the one through whom the world was made. He came to rescue what he made. Jesus owns creation by right. Colossians 1:16 says all things were created through him and for him. Everything exists for Jesus' purposes. He has a legitimate claim to authority over creation because he made it. Hebrews 1:3 says Jesus is sustaining all things by his powerful word. The same word that spoke creation into being continues holding it together. Your next breath, heartbeat, and thought exist because Jesus maintains the physical laws enabling them. If Jesus was actively creating galaxies, then chose to become a helpless infant, the humility is staggering. Philippians 2 calls this making himself nothing, the infinite becoming finite, the eternal entering time, the creator becoming creature. Since Jesus created all things, his redemptive work has cosmic scope. Romans 8:21 speaks of creation itself being liberated. Jesus' work doesn't just save souls, it redeems the entire created order. The Christmas story becomes infinitely more profound when we understand that the baby born in Bethlehem was the eternal word through whom galaxies were spoken into existence. The child lying in a feeding trough created the wood it was made from. The young man learning carpentry from Joseph had designed the physical laws governing wood grain. The teacher who grew tired and hungry was sustaining the existence of everyone listening. Jesus wasn't a good man who became divine, he was the eternal Son who became human. His birth was invasion, not origin, the Creator entering his creation on a rescue mission. When Genesis says, "Let us make man," Christians hear the eternal conversation between Father, Son, and Spirit, the Son who would one day become man to redeem mankind. When the Old Testament speaks of God appearing, Christians see the Son making himself visible before his ultimate visible manifestation in the Incarnation. The question, where was Jesus during creation, has a startling answer. He was speaking it into existence. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word became flesh. The carpenter from Nazareth carved the cosmos. The teacher who walked dusty roads designed the physics of motion. The man who died on a cross created the atoms composing that cross. This is the mystery Christians celebrate, not that a good teacher lived 2,000 years ago, but that the eternal Creator became one of his creatures to rescue creation itself. Does understanding Jesus' role in creation change how you view the Incarnation? What about the "Let us make man" passage? Had you considered it might reference the Trinity? Subscribe to Bible Scope for more explorations connecting Old Testament mysteries to New Testament revelations, examining how the entire Bible tells one unified story. Share this article with someone curious about Jesus' identity beyond the Christmas story, or interested in how Christians understand the relationship between Creator and creation. Drop a comment below. What's the most surprising thing you learned about Jesus and creation? Let's discuss this profound mystery together.